Welcome to the Avert podcast, where we talk with some of the most creative people within North Texas and beyond. I'm your host, Michael Gibson Jr. I want to give you a couple of quick updates on our film Allura. If you missed out on the screening at the Denton Black Film Festival, where we received the first runner-up award in the Best Texas Short category, there will be 2 screenings coming up. The first is on Saturday, March 23rd at the Alamo Draft House located on South Lamar Street during the Darkened Dallas Shorts film screening. Following that, on Friday, March 23rd, Allura will be screening at the 2019 Deep in the Heart Film Festival in Waco, Texas, as part of the Family Dynamics short film block at 4:15 p.m. We've been recently nominated for the Best Fantasy Sci-Fi Short Film category. Be sure to check out episodes 37 through 40 of the Avert podcast, if you haven't, to catch up on my conversations with the 3 actresses and the director of Allura. You can find all that and more information on those upcoming screenings at www.avertyoureyespod.com. This episode's guest is Deborah Jung, the founder and executive director of Kids Who Care. Deborah is a 2007 Great Women of Texas honoree, a 2008 Legacy of Women Award recipient for the arts, and most recently, the Heart of Gold Award recipient from the Fort Worth Arts Council. Deborah has produced and directed tours of original musicals since 1990 with Kids Who Care, previewing Off Broadway at the Lambs Theater and appearing at the Kennedy Center, Bass Hall, and Disneyland. Additional tours include venues in New York, Chicago, Boston, Los Angeles, Italy, Albania, Germany, Washington, D.C., Orlando, Nashville, across Texas, and at 30,000 feet in the air on the American Airlines Wish Flight. Deborah has produced and directed family musicals for Kids Who Care, including West Side Story, Peter Pan, A Midsummer's Night's Dream, Annie, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Godspell, Narnia, The Wizard of Oz, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, A Christmas Carol, and The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. Under Deborah's direction, Kids Who Care has produced family concerts with Peter Yarrow, Trout Fishing in America, Sara Hickman, Inca Son, Eddie Coker, Danny Wright, and Joseph Vincelli. Prior to founding Kids Who Care, Deborah was a member of Actors Equity and a member of the resident company at Casa Manana. While at Casa, she directed and or appeared in over 75 productions and is the original founder of Casa Kids. Now, celebrating 30 years this year, Kids Who Care is still following the original vision and desire of the founder and executive director, which is, quote, to create a space where the child is cherished, to write and produce original works designed to change the world, to find stellar arts and business professionals who adore kids and work with them, to gather the brightest business and community leaders who love kids and ask them to volunteer alongside us, so that when the lights go up, we find delight, end quote. Kids are transformed when their confidences are built and when the combination of artistic development is infused with entrepreneurial leadership. Kids are more than ready for the bright futures that await them. At Kids Who Care, they do this by leading with an entrepreneurial mindset, valuing the artistic integrity of kids, promoting excellence in artistic development, seeking financial and cultural diversity, teaching an ensemble-driven mindset, mutually respecting all ages, and producing original works that are designed to change the world. By offering a year-round artistic education to kids of all ages and backgrounds, children have opportunities to be part of summer musical and leadership camps, weekly classes, or even the opportunity to tour an original work which is designed to change the world. During my conversation with Deborah, we discuss how she accidentally got into theater, her time at Casa Manana, the creation of Kids Who Care, and so much more on episode number 43 of the Avert podcast. Consider yourself warned. This next guy came all the way from Jamaica. Here he is, Michael Gibson. And so, I still didn't paste. Let's see. Okay. But the,
Michael Gibson!
Yeah, please welcome Michael Gibson. So I come out and, I have dreads now, but I was a very skinny kid in college. Was very clean cut.
Right.
And so I come skipping out. But I had bought one of those like fake.
Yeah, have the dreadlocks.
The dreads.
Yeah.
I'm skipping out.
That's awesome.
And I'm all, my voice has dropped, but it was much higher back then. And I'm all, what a go on, everybody. And I start rolling out as much patois, imitating my father as I could.
Yeah.
And then like people are hooting and hollering here all this patois. And then I stop and I was like, in my normal voice, I was like, I'm sorry, guys. This is my real voice.
Awesome.
Like, oh my God. I was like, okay, I gotcha.
Awesome.
And then I went into my set that I had written, and
wow, cool.
I got some laughs, and ran off the stage.
Wow. Oh my God.
And so I was like, I want to do this. I think I want to write for that. That's kind of what it solidified. And went to I think I went another semester. Like the guy that was doing that thing ended up switching schools, gave the reins to another girl, and she never did anything the rest of the time that I was up there. And I hounded her the rest of the time that I was up at UNT. And so I was like, you know what? Let me try to write. But then taking classes, I realized you could write the greatest thing in the world. Doesn't mean A, it'll get picked up.
No.
Or B, it'll get done the way that you envision it. Right. So production is really the way to go.
Yeah, then you have some information. You have control over the process.
Exactly.
You can affect the process.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
totally.
So I got involved with film and production. Went through advanced film. We made 5 films as a class. Everybody had to work on 3. I landed the producer position on the 5th film.
Awesome.
We made a gangster film. I got to hire a weapon expert to come in and do squibs, blanks.
Cool.
So you get to see.
And did you love that? Once you were in that role, did you go, I'm in it. This is good. Yeah, because sometimes the writer doesn't want to translate to the other. But when you get to the other and you go, I love this too.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway,
so it seems like I've been there ever since. And,
I love
graduated, went to, worked for an audiovisual company for a little bit, but, out of school. But I was working that job, hosting at Chili's, working at
yes,
working at I was a true Jamaican.
This is good. Yeah.
It's different,
and all of them becoming a piece.
Yes,
I mean the audio great. Now I'm getting that tool.
But the biggest, they would do anything as small as like the business corporate meetings that you would see in hotels.
Yeah.
To big concerts. But the biggest thing I got to work on was a banquet, and I got to run the lights.
Awesome.
And help tear down, and that was the biggest thing I got to work on.
Yeah.
And so, juggling all these schedules, keeping up with all these calendars, I was like, could I get more work? And they're like, this is the nature of the business. We schedule y'all based on clients to hire us. So I was like, gotcha. So I went to quit everything, got an auto finance job, a desk job, was there for about 2 years and probably would still be there had the economy not tanked. And
so now you're in the finance department of an auto company. Are you selling cars? Are you financing?
I was basically I was dealing with leases, so was at the tail end, so people would turn in their vehicles, and so whatever balance they had left over, get them to pay.
This is good. Learning this finance stuff is good.
But then I ended up working my way up to the other side to where, your lease is ending. Well, if you want to buy it, we still have to run your credit, but looking at numbers, this is what your payments would sort of look like. But if you think you could get a better deal from your bank or credit union, this is the number you need to get to them. And I started working my way up the list of, and competing with all these guys that had been there for so many years.
Awesome. And you had a sparkle. There's a thing you have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because of who you are out here, these guys don't have that. And that electrical connection, people don't know why. It's a finance guy who feels this way. But that's it. There's a sparkle there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I would still probably be there had the economy not tanked. But the guy that trained me when I first got there was this guy named Tony. And he we got to talking, kind of, we were both Jamaican.
Oh,
and,
cool.
Both went to UNT. He was like, well, what'd you study? And he was like, he did business. I did radio, television, and film. He's like, well, what'd you want to do with that? Well, I would love to work for NBC. That's my dream job, to go to New York and write for Conan or Saturday Night Live. He's like, that's hilarious. My mom works for NBC. I was like, that's awesome. Filed it away. But he was so cool. I just wanted to stay friends with him.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years later, economy tanks. He ends up leaving, and he works for the FAA now.
Interesting.
And I got eventually let go. Was on unemployment for 2 weeks.
Right.
He calls me up. He's like, dude, remember how you said you wanted to work for NBC? I was like, yeah.
Is your heart going like this?
He's like, well, my mother has a part-time position open. You can submit your
Dear God.
resume. And I was like, dude, I would scrub toilets just to say.
No kidding, because if you're in the building,
right.
You're there.
Right.
Yeah, you can swim in there, yeah.
And so I put in the application, got a call, did the interview, and I've been there.
And did what? Who was his mom?
Nada.
What? No way. Oh my God, I've known Nada since I was on stage full time. I mean, I've known Nada forever. And Nada is one of those people that I'm going, thank God you're still there. We pitched a TV show to Nada, not to Nada, to NBC years ago. And I took the dog. We pitched a show, and it was hilarious because president of NBC, his name's out of my head right now, Brian, who's the head of NBC where you are?
Right now?
Yeah.
It's Tom Ellman.
And,
before that, it was...
it's going to come in just a second. Yes, it's gone right now. Anyway, his daughter was here, and I pitched a TV show to NBC when they were shifting to just news. And the morning children's show went away, and I'd been on that show and known half the crew didn't like kids. And I went, it's because I don't like kids. If you can have somebody who loves kids, it'll be great. And it was so good because he was so kind to me. What is his last name? It'll come in a minute. I came with the kids. I came with the dog. We did a whole thing. And he went, and I had no radio film except to be an actress on. And I was only in 2 TV things, but I was like, somebody's got who loves kids ought to do this. And it was such a good experience. But Nada was there then. And when we called not long ago, and she's still there, I'm like, yes, that is so cool. I love that. So you've been in her department since?
Yes, ma'am. And
I love that.
I started part-time.
Yeah.
And then there was one day in particular, because she was like, just know that this is a very clerical job.
Right.
You're not
it's
going to
okay.
be doing production.
You're smart enough to know. Fine. I could do clerical.
Exactly.
I have a college education.
I minored in English, so, I love to write
awesome.
and stuff. And so I ended up doing, FCC reports for, several years and a couple
Good.
of,
patient.
Writing a couple spots, but,
sure.
turn them over to
Just
other
be
people to be editing. But then, one day, I passed her in the hallway, and she had a tape in her hand.
Mm-hmm.
And this was, I started in 2009, and we still had beta. Everything's digital now.
Yeah.
But she had a beta tape in her hand, and I was like, she had this look on her face. I was like, what's wrong?
Up? Right.
She's like, well, I have this spot that came in, and I needed to get it on air, but we worked very closely with the promotions department, the marketing team at the time, and everybody's busy on projects. And I was like, well, what exactly is it that you need?
Oh my
and
God.
So she told me, and I ran to an open bay. I was like, is this what you're looking for? She's like, oh my God, the kid can edit too. And from then on, she fought for me.
There you go.
And
there you go.
I got hired on full time in 2011.
Cool.
Yeah.
People's stories are the best. That is so, so cool. It's when you meet people and you go, who are you? Yeah. Something's, what? Okay, I know you're selling a car right now. That's not, who are you? That's so cool. Wow, it's a good trail. And teaching, trying to teach kids patience for the world to conspire together. I mean, you have to wait for the world to be ready.
Yeah.
And you have to, and all those pieces you name make you able to produce business. If you hadn't done the finance, if you hadn't done that other stuff, then you don't know that.
No, and working for NADA now, like, if I didn't have those 2 years at that auto finance company,
right.
I don't think that
Thank God for them. Ready. So when you're in it, you have to go, this is part of the puzzle.
Exactly. That's what I tell people now, dealing with, we have students that come in, and, or we'll go to schools, and, I let them know, I was like, hey, you need to know, don't look at somebody else and be like, why am I not there yet?
Totally.
Your trail is your trail. Look at people. There's a guy named Philip DeFranco, and he gives the advice, look at, somebody older,
mm-hmm.
a contemporary, and somebody up and coming, mm-hmm. and see exactly what it is that they're doing, mm-hmm. so that you can see exactly where just you are, watching. So that you can keep pivoting.
And just be curious.
Yeah.
And just trust that I must need this, and trust that no is good. No, exit, bye, see ya is good. It's like, okay, I'm supposed to be learning something new. Hard to know in the moment, so you can rant and rave, but knowing that is imperative. Yeah, and Val Wilkie said to me one time, who has passed away since, but he was he was the gatekeeper for the Sid Richardson money, so the Bass Brothers. And when I started Kids Who Care, he gave me my first grant, so 30 years ago, when it was just a blip of an idea. He said, yeah, you should go to Italy. I'll give you half of the money, which was smart. But I remember saying to him, we were on NBC did a story on us when it was when we were doing District 11 years ago. And the crew came in for the Today Show, filmed us, filmed this kid who was doing the opening speech, and it was Jenna Bush's first story. And she got the kid in Dallas who was in our show. She fell in love with him, and the story became about him. And so all our footage ended up on the floor.
Uh-huh.
And literally everybody was up to watch the Today Show, and they watched, and we were never on. The story came up, and we were on the editing room floor. But nobody told us.
Right.
Because we're moving on. Story's done. And it was Jenna Bush. I'm going, perfect. It's a Texan. She'll fall in love. No. We were the forgotten piece. And I remember saying to Val Wilkie at one time, I can see the picture already. It was like the 5th year I was in business. I said, it makes me so impatient. He said, good. Patience and impatience, they're the perfect partners. Impatience because you can see it and you're going toward it, but patiently wait for it to unfold. He was so kind to me, and he said, Deborah, it's not about the Today Show. Because I was crushed. I was like, Val, we were right there. Because I want the world to know there's these amazing children writing these new works with us, and it's changing the world. And he went, it's okay, Deborah. It was never about the Today Show. I stood in the basement the next time we went to New York, not in the basement, in the lobby of NBC, and I had to leave. I said to the 50 kids who were taking a tour, we were taking a tour instead of being on the air. And I looked at my assistant and I said, I'll be right back. And I had to walk the block and just sob and come back to the lobby and go, okay, here we go. And I told Val, I was doing a tour of NBC, Val. And he went, Deborah, it's not about being on NBC. Wasn't that smart advice? It's not about that. Because I'm always looking for, and I know you too, what's the catapult? What's the tipping point? When does your idea take on what you can't control, which is people finding you? When does it happen so you can find, for me, so I can find more kids? So they can find me and go, oh my God, I do that well. Wow, I can do that. You told me I'm an artist? Oh, okay, I'm going to do that. So I love your story because it's the story of how we create great life, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I have to see your stand-up. I have to. Oh. I know that's not the phase where you are now, but I'd love to hear your Jamaican dad would be incredible. I'd love to hear your rendition of that. It's so cool. Oh. Yeah, your story's awesome.
I did that set for him one time, years later, and he kept cutting it. He's like, it's comedy. You have to take. There's a kernel.
You have to
of
take
truth
family. The Goldbergs are one of my favorite shows now.
Yeah,
because the family is so irritated with each other and so in love with each other. And you need to see things where it's real, but you know it's based in real, but what's good is when you write and you go back and the seed is real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is your dad still living?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's where are your parents?
My parents still live in Fort Worth.
Oh my God, I have to meet them. That's really, really cool. I love that. That's awesome.
So
okay, so what do you want to know? What shall we talk about?
I know you started out, I know before Kids Who Care,
Mm-hmm.
I know you worked with CASA.
Yeah.
But even before that, what was the thing that drew you to acting? Tell me about
it. Was a
you.
mistake. Actually, it was a mistake. And that's when you realize all mistakes are purposeful. I mean, for me, because I'm faith driven, for me, it's about the things that happen that look like, that was a mistake, aren't a mistake. What happened was I grew up, my dad was a geophysicist.
Wow.
Which is very cool. And so because he was a geologist physicist, he worked in oil for an oil company in Midland, Texas. And it was when Midland was booming. And great schools, great everything, because lots of money was there. So when those people running oil companies came to Midland, they had a symphony, they had a theater. They wanted what other big cities had, because the people that were asking to move there expected to have a good life. So from the moment I could breathe, I was drawing. All my gifts were easels and paints and pencils. And I had the full intention of that's what I was doing. And so, and I took piano-ish. My sister thinks, now, and introduced me one time as an accomplished pianist, and my friends went, really? I played 2 songs. But I took piano.
And what are those 2 songs?
Tammy, which is from an old 1950s movie, and The Sound of Music. The Hills Are Alive. I play those 2. I don't know if I can still play them. But I was taking piano, which made sense to my mind, and I wanted to be Haley Mills.
Of course.
I wanted to be her. So I was, singing songs, and that was the best. But I wasn't thinking about being an actress. We would go to the theater, and I'm looking at the scenic design. I'm like, oh my God, that wall flew out. Oh my God, flew out. You can see through the wall. So to me, I was busy constructing. So it was like architecture meets drawing. And my dad, we moved to Euless because the big oil companies were buying up the little ones, and he worked for an independent oil company. And my grandfather, who was the mayor of Euless and this awesome man, got sick, and he made his money in real estate selling all that Mid-Cities land.
Yeah.
That's how he made his money. And so my dad, we all moved to Euless. My dad took over the real estate company, and so it was middle school, and they put me in the wrong class. I was in a speech and drama class instead of my art class. And I wasn't mad about it because I'm really good-natured. If you serve me the wrong food, I'm not mad. I'm like, oh, maybe this tastes good. So I was in that class, and it took them long enough to switch me that when they were switching me, I went, no. Because Beverly Brown, who was at Euless Junior High, just blew my mind. I was going, oh my God, this is fun. And so, from there on out, Trinity High School opened, so it was the same group of kids. It was like a resident company. Same group of kids, football players, everybody. Everybody did theater. And so really, then when I graduated from high school and I was starting to go, where do I want to study? My theater teacher said, Trinity University is extraordinary. Paul Baker, who was then running the Dallas Theater Center, half of his staff commuted to San Antonio. So the teaching staff at Trinity was Dallas Theater Center's resident company and people who lived there.
Wow.
So I looked at Trinity. It was small. It was intellectual. The people there were intellectual, but they don't have national fraternities. They have their own fraternities. So you could join a group, but it wasn't connected to politics. It matched me because it was all of the things I wanted about being really involved on campus and in a really robust theater department. I just knew my theater teacher said it's cool, and my parents went, yeah, it's good. It's smart people who want to study hard go there. So it matched me, and I trained with Paul Baker, who wrote a book called Integration of Abilities. It's that you don't have to, his idea was you just have to know how to get an idea from start to finish. He said, I don't care if you're baking a cake or you're building a bridge, it's all the same. You start with a blank slate. So the way I learned was not about becoming an actress or a director. I was in the theater department, but the basis of learning was how do you get an idea from start to finish? And I was interviewing. I'd gotten my teaching certificate thinking, that's fun. I like child psychology. So I got it. Not with the idea that now I have to go teach. It was like, that's cool. Which is sort of like, oh, that's cool. I'll do that. And then I interviewed at NBC. I thought, I'll be on camera. My mom said, you'd be great on camera. I had no training, but it didn't. I was like, oh, I'm an actress. I have acting training. I interviewed everywhere from NBC to school systems. I just interviewed everywhere. And in August, I came to Casa Mañana and had an interview with Sharon Benge, who ran what was called the Children's Playhouse. So it was the season of, they did Shakespeare and they did Winnie the Pooh. Which is who I am. It's Shakespeare and Winnie the Pooh. And so she hired me, like you. She didn't hire me as an actress. I just wanted a job. She hired me as the box office manager, which was a blast because you get to color in the squares and there's 1,500 seats and you're in charge of the madness of filling it when the kids come. And I love math, so I love the business side of it. And then she said, she knew Paul Baker's work, and she said, I also had a couple of classes. She said, do you have a teaching certificate? Yes, I do. She knew my training. She went, you'd be great. So I was teaching 4 and 5-year-olds. I was like, I don't even know what they do. Do they cut? I don't know, even though I had 4 kids in my family. And so I started teaching and was box office manager. And then she started giving me directing gigs. So she would get one. Like, come to the one of the ones was at the Modern to do a short play in the middle of some sort of festival. Sharon didn't need that job. She was already directing, so she gave it to me, and suddenly I was directing a piece in the Modern. It's like, oh, that's so cool, with a couple of boxes and children. And pretty soon what everybody learned about me was I was happiest in the middle of a bunch of kids. And what I noticed was I have a lot of great friends, but a lot of these people don't even like kids.
Which is so sad.
It hurt my heart. And that's why I went to NBC, because I went to NBC for the Children's Hour show and I was directing Rudolph. So I took Rudolph and Santa and Mrs. Santa, and I was the director. So I was there, and I noticed my Santa, who hated kids. And I'm like, kids know.
Yeah.
That's a very dangerous person to cast. And so I'm going, he doesn't even like kids. The cruise shut down. The kids left that were there as guests. And everybody just went, thank God. And I loved my life, but it was a subtle message. And there were people there who liked kids. It wasn't that the industry is totally jaded. But why do you get to have a children's show and you don't even like kids? There's something wrong with that. And that was there. The fact that I was a full-time actress. So for 14 years, I'm the Queen of Hearts, or I'm Glinda the Good Witch, or I'm Ophelia in Hamlet. This is a perfect life. A perfect life. I'm Ophelia. And then the next week, I'm the Queen of Hearts. And then the next week, it was mind-blowing that I was not a gypsy and I had this full-time job and my costumes were made for me. It was like dreamy. And so we finished. Shakespeare in the Park started, and because I loved business, I was hired as Sharon, my boss, hired me to be her company manager. So now in the summer, I'm doing Shakespeare. So I finished my Winnie the Pooh Shakespeare, and then I go do Shakespeare in the Park at its glory when it was incredible. And I was company management, and every now and then I would step on stage. I was Romeo's mother. Too old for Juliet by then, Romeo's mother. And then we got to July and I went, those things that I said, some people don't like kids. Something's wrong with that. And there were kids, I only taught kids who had money. Nobody was giving scholarships. I'm just going, dear God, there's 700 children in this theater school and nobody's here on scholarship. But I knew any kid in my class, life got changed. And I was going, the kids who don't have money aren't getting to do this. This is stupid. So, but it wasn't like a revolution. I loved my life. I'm not going to change that. So one July, it was 1987 because it was 2 years before I came here. I went to my church and said, "Can I use your basement?" And they went, "Sure." And they gave it to me for free. And I sent a message to all the kids I taught, which by then I was doing like 8 classes a week, and they were I adored it. I said, "Guys, we're going to do a summer stock company, and it's going to be called Kids Who Care, and we're going to produce a show that matters." We did Free to Be You and Me, that Marlo Thomas instigated, and was a PBS special, and it was incredible. I said, "We're going to do Free to Be You and Me, because we can do that." And then I went to all the Boys and Girls Clubs. I called Joe Cordova, the head of it, and I said, "Hi." And I had a bit of notoriety by then because I was on stage, in 8 shows a year, thousands of people. And he went, "Oh, yeah." And I said, "Can I come audition in your Boys and Girls Clubs?" And he went, "For what?" And I said, "Oh, this summer stock thing I'm going to do with kids." He went, "Oh, that sounds cool." So I posted it. It was hilarious. I posted this audition. 13 kids auditioned between all the Boys and Girls Club. We took all of them. We weren't looking for, "You're going to be the star." We're looking for, "Do you want to do this?" So we took 13 kids, and they figured out how to get them here. That's when I came here. I said, Garber, I'd done a show. I'd been an actress for him. I said, "Can I come do Kids Who Care here?" And he went, "What is that?" And I went, "Oh, this little thing I do in the summer. It's summer stock for kids." And he went, "Okay, yeah, Deborah, nobody's here during the day," because it was an adult building. He gave me the space for free.
Wow.
Shocking. I didn't even know what a big deal that was till later. I went, "Oh, thank you." And I had kids sign up. So I had 13 scholarship kids. Sister Cities was starting, and I was really trying to go to Italy. I went, I should go teach in Italy. They called me and said, "What's the thing you do?" And I went, "Kids Who Care." And they went, "Yeah, you want some Italians?" And I went, "What?" So we had 3 Italian teenage boys coming who weren't coming for theater. They were just coming because it's Texas. But they were going to come do this.
And did they speak any English?
Oh, yeah, they were good. They were friends of, because it was small. This was only the second year of Sister Cities.
Right.
So they were friends of the mayor and the one, Claudia Calzoni, who was gathering kids for the exchanges. They were just friends. It's kind of like Nada Ruddick. My friend knows. And so 3 Italian boys got on a plane to come to Kids Who Care. I'm international. That's cool. And then the other kids were kids who their parents were going to send them to something. Actually, there were no summer camps. Casa Mañana was only Casa Musicals. There were no summer camps in theater, which is shocking because they're everywhere now.
Right.
So I had this company of 33 kids, 13 on full scholarship. Cool. They didn't have money. It's okay. I needed to make a salary, though. So my friend and I said, "How many kids do we need to have to pay ourselves? Let's get those done." And these 3 Italians. And we did a combination of Free to Be You and Me and Free to Be a Family, which is if your family looks like this, that's still a family. Which 30 years ago, if your family, it was very different. If you didn't have a mom and a dad, oh dear. It was very different. And we had no money to advertise. So I just said to all these 33 kids, "You have to tell everybody to come." And it was free, so okay. So I'm thinking, in fact, the guild ladies for Fort Worth Theater went, "Deborah, you're doing a little skit next week." And I went, of course I didn't say, "It's a show." I just went, "Yeah, we are." And they went, "Would you like for us to bring some cookies?" And I went, "Sure." And they went, "How many people do you expect?" And I said, "Well, there's 33 kids, so maybe there might be 90 people there. Because at least their parents are going to come." And so we got to the evening, and I'm talking, Michael, I am an actress who's a director who can sing and dance, but that's not what I am first, right? But I had choreographed it because I'd been choreographed a million times. So it was my choreography, my vocals, and it was a boom box with hit go for music. And there were no seats. There's 500 seats in this, 463 seats. There was standing room only.
Wow.
And so I went, okay. And the ladies came with cookies, and they looked in the theater, and they went, "Oh, you can have these for the cast." Then they left. They were like, "Holy moly." And I asked all my friends to sit on the front row and get up and do a cameo piece. So like Jerry Russell got up and did a monologue about what is a family? Being free to be yourself. Who are you? That's good enough. And at the end, there was this standing ovation, and I went, "Yes, that's so great." And then what happened was the family said, what are you doing now? What are you going to do now? And I went, what do you mean what I'm going to do? Oh, I didn't say it out loud. I thought, oh, tell me. And they were like, well, we can't go back to what we have to do this. I mean, we have to keep doing this. And so I thought, oh, I have a moment to create it like I want it to be. So I created classes, and the classes were not a basic acting. It was like, let's study melodrama and Shakespeare. And I created a touring company. We're going to take this show and we're going to keep performing it. So 15 kids auditioned for what's now the Resident Company. 15 kids said, I'll tour. And I said to their parents, and the tuition is this. And they went, great, we'll do that. That's cool. And so suddenly the theater school was there and the tour was there. And I went to Val Wilkie and said, we had Italians. If we'll just go to Italy and meet the parents, they'll trust us and send them back. We went to Italy and performed. And it's still the same company. It's just more sophisticated. We do a show. What we learned is we had to write our own shows. Because when we looked, Free to Be You and Me is a collection of writers. It's a song and a poem and a piece of prose. And they were amazing people. I mean, these were like Shel Silverstein wrote a piece. These were like, because it's Marlo Thomas.
Right.
These were like major hitters that were her friends who contributed a piece. So I just mimicked that. And I went to my friends and said, can you write something about? But the about, we say to the kids, what would you change? Well, if you could change the world, what makes you really mad? What makes you so mad that you have to tell adults, why is this happening? We have to change this. Because I said in theater, the lights come down and they're there. So the power of your voice on stage with adult voices who support you, you can change the world. What do you want to change? And so it's still how we come up with the subject. What do you want to change? And so it's been everything from my son Chad couldn't wear a red bandana on his head to middle school because it was the Bloods and the Crips. He wasn't a Blood or a Crip, but it was the fashion. And he was like, well, it's stupid because now these people are defining my freedom to dress with the assumption that I am that by looking at me. And so choices that we're doing now is an extension of that. How do your choices impact everybody around you? And when they're mean and you don't learn to be kind, you blow up a building. I mean, adult bullies become what we're watching right now from the White House. If you didn't learn to be kind and someone didn't give you that value right now, and in the beginning, you're a bully in the hallway, but the adult version of that is shocking. And so choices that we're touring now starts with this song called Choosing Sides, and it's a street basketball game. And it doesn't mean street like in the ghetto street. This is like kids playing basketball. It doesn't matter where they are. And the first thing that happens is they choose sides. And that's the thing. Was I never chosen? The kid who's never chosen. The kid who's always on the out. That nobody can see, that they forget. And already the banter starts between kids. You're not good enough. Ugh. I hate you for this reason, or you're way too different than me. So at the beginning, it's this game, and then we walk through the paces of what kind of choices do we make? And we laugh at ourselves. We have to laugh a lot. But there is the point in the show that is the Hamlet in me, right? So just because they're kids doesn't mean they don't want to say something really shocking and serious. But at some point in the show, what happens is those same kids are back and somebody pushes somebody, and then there's a fight, and then they start turning on each other. And the story that's there is a real story of one of our Israelis, Tal Ziskovich, who wrote me a letter saying, Deborah, remember when you taught us those things you taught us? first he said, I hope you remember me. I was like, dear God, you're from Israel. Of course I remember you. He said, my friends, we all went off. We all have to go serve in the Army. And right before we left, my friends had a fight. And they became two groups. And my friend stood in the middle to try to create peace. And they all turned on him. Mm. And we all went off to the Army. And he committed suicide. And when we came home, I remembered what you taught us. I remembered it all came back. And he said, this kills you. So keep teaching the lessons, praying the prayers. Don't give up on us. So it's in the show. So all of a sudden we go back to that basketball game at the top, and now those kids are playing, but somebody pushes somebody, and somebody pushes them back, and then somebody starts beating somebody, and somebody starts nailing somebody, and these friends are in a serious battle, and the kid steps up to try to create peace, and they all turn on him. And there's a moment in the show where that you see the kid walking up to this platform, and because we've got a children audience, only the adults would go, dear God. But it's saying, guys, if you don't learn this early, look what happens. And so we needed to do it this year. Last year when we said to the kids, we have all these shows we could do. We could write a new one. And when I said choices, they went, we have to do that. The world is a mess. The meanness is off the charts. And so it's really brave. And we've been some places where people are like stunned that these kids just said, and you blow up buildings when you stay this mean. Which the year we did it after 9/11, we've done this show 4 times. We did the show right after 9/11 too. And there's a reference to an explosion in this. That at the time, to everybody was 9/11. Now it is, what happened in Paris? Yeah. What happened in a school? What kind of insanity based on just not teaching these lessons? And so it stuns the audience, but the point of it is don't lose hope. So after we stun them, then Pam Adair, who's a genius, wrote a song called Be the Change. And the kids come out, and what they do come out and say is, you can change that, right? It's not too late, right? Be the change. And the audience goes, I mean, it's remarkable, Michael. It's remarkable. So now I'm at 30 years. So I have to, in 30 more years, I'll be 95. So I gotta hurry. I got stuff to do. I only have 30 more years. If I'm really lucky, I'll probably have 15 before I'm starting to go, okay, you take that and I'll take this. But so that's it. That's the story of it. Yeah, wow. So as I'm listening to you talk about what you do, and I'm listening to you going, oh my God, if you sat on the front row and stepped up to do something that makes us laugh and go, really? How ridiculous is it? This stupidity of meanness or whatever strikes you. It's just a great way to live, And when I look at you and I think, oh, you totally match us with the soul of the story you told. I've won Emmys, 2 Emmys, which is shocking and incredible. I won 2 Emmys, but the moment that was something was this connection.
Yeah, it was a real, human moment to know that, what you do, what 3-4 guys in a room, wrote together, just, we're just laughing, having fun, joking.
Yeah.
And stuff. That's funny. Why don't you throw that in there?
Right.
And then we performed it. And then that actually resonated with somebody and turned their day around. Like,
totally. And life around.
Right.
What you find out later, you don't always find out. But if you live long enough, at some point, somebody 20 years later, like Tal Ziskovich, he hadn't been here for 10 years. But you get a letter that says that thing Oh my God, that thing. I now get it. Yeah. So every time you're performing your words that are from the heart, and in the stories about your dad, oh my God, just things that, I wish I could remember this sentence about the writer who affects you is not the one that says something new. It's the one who gives words to what you could not utter. It's the one who gives words to feelings you've had and makes sense of it, So,
So speaking of writers, I know that you, let's go back to you threw out Shakespeare a couple times. What's your favorite Shakespeare?
Oh God. Well, because the modern version of it is one of my favorite musicals ever written, West Side Story. I mean, to me, Romeo and Juliet is just, they were so close and no one would let them love each other. I mean, their hate killed their children. That's real.
Yeah.
And that moment at the end of West Side Story, because I've directed West Side Story, that note, that singular musical note when they're carrying Tony out. I mean, at the end, when Maria is on her knees next to Tony, and the friends start to come in and she doesn't allow it. Your hate killed the love of my life. I mean, oh my God. So from a drama standpoint, his tragedies, for sure. And then you have to go to things like King Lear and what happens to power, or Macbeth. Oh my God, the hunger of power.
Yes.
Oh, the power hungry. What happens that totally is so ugly. And then Midsummer Night's Dream, one of my favorite evers. It's just, you just have to go. The reason it's done so much is because it is so magical, and we've done that. Yeah, we've done that. There was a rock musical version of it that we did at Trinity when I was there, that Dallas Theater Center produced, and it was great. And so all of his comedies, what I love is that you have to be so sharp and think. And so, but really, and I think it's because I love West Side Story so much, and its original sister is right there, or brother is right there. And I've been on stage for that moment, as the parent of Romeo, that my hate, the collective hate, killed my child. Holy moly. Oh my God. The story of the world, right?
Yeah. World over. I personally, like you said, Midsummer's Night's Dream, seeing that done is always fun to see how it's portrayed on the stage.
So what is your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
I would probably say Hamlet. I would love to see
Hamlet. Oh my God, yes.
I've had this dream that if I ever get to the point where I can do a movie that I want to do, I would love to do a modern version of Hamlet.
And did you see the opera's Hamlet by any chance?
I did not.
The reason I did is my son designs lights for the opera. It's great when your children do smart things and then you just get to hang out as the parent. And when Fort Worth Opera did Hamlet, oh my God. And so, the story is, and playing Ophelia in that, being the tender, fragile soul caught in the midst of that, and being so tender, to not make it through. Oh, God, Hamlet, they're all of them. There's so many that are the favorites, but Hamlet for sure. That tragic, power hungry story. And the really smart child, and Laertes. It's just at the end where everybody's lost.
Yeah, it was just something about that story. just resonates with you. Like, you know, as a kid, like you grow up and, you know, all these cartoons are like happy and whatever, but, you know, when we get to, you know, further on in grade school and you start reading stuff like that and it's just so amazing and so powerful that, like, you see these people that are, you know, each character has something that they're fighting for, but then, you know, everybody loses.
Yes.
That's a very strong lesson to take in.
Well, and I think the mistake people make, Madeleine L'Engle knew this. I love Madeleine L'Engle, who wrote children's books that had grit.
Yeah.
And people would say to her, how do you write for children? And she'd go, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, children are highly spiritual, highly intuitive, and they have tragedy in their life. And we are careful with them.
Right.
I mean, at Kids Who Care, you know, we're about G-rated language just because, not because those expressions of language are wrong, but at some point when you make a choice to need to use that to make a point, then it should be purposeful and intentional in your choice as a person.
Right.
Because there's nothing like language to really express the deep, are you paying attention language,
right.
You know? But we're really careful with our children to give people their children back. But it doesn't mean that a child doesn't experience the sadness of death of someone, that whether it's just their dog or their fish, they're experiencing loss. And so they're exposed to loss all the time.
Yeah, I remember when my dog died, I think we got her when I was maybe like 7 or 8. Me and my brother had 2 chows, and they were just gorgeous dogs. And then my brother's dog died a few years before, but my dog died like a week to the day before I was supposed to graduate high school. I was like, I guess I'm supposed to be a man now.
No, you're supposed to be a human who has this huge loss.
Yeah.
It's a huge loss. It's your companion. It's the person who's for you.
Yeah.
I mean, the dog is unconditional. I mean, I think from our pets, I don't know about cats because they're very specific.
Yes, they are.
But dogs are the perfect example of unconditional love. It's fresh every time you see them. And you can even get mad at them and they're like, oh, really? Okay. I mean, it's your first experience of unconditional love. It teaches you what you're looking for later, I think. And so when you lose a companion, oh my word. My son tells the story of when they lost a dog and they were outside in the yard burying the dog in the rain because for their family and their children, this was huge. It is like a Shakespearean tragedy. It's the same.
Yeah.
And so I think for Kids Who Care, it's that people have no idea children need more than bubble gum. And also, it's terrible because so many children's theaters dumb it down. You don't dumb it down, you ramp it up, man. You give them the best words. It's why children should have all the bells and whistles. They know the difference. At Casa Mañana, when it was 1,500 seats in the round, which is when I was there, we call it the squeaking chair. If the kids aren't with you, you know it. The chairs are squeaking because they're starting to get antsy to leave. So you can hear it. 1,500 seats, you can hear we lost them. And you only lose a kid if you're not authentic. If you're authentic, they're not going to be bored. But if it's just you're talking down to them and you don't think they have deep thoughts and you could care less about them, it's when you lose them as an audience. But my grandmother Murphy, who was a storyteller and a bookkeeper, she did bookkeeping for Dallas County Welfare. Isn't that cool? That was her business life because she ended up being a single mom. And then she went to a university. She was from Ohio, and she was a professional storyteller. So,
wow.
It's the yin and the yang in one person. And when I started teaching, I went, Grandmommy, I'm teaching 4 and 5-year-olds. I don't even know what they do. How can I do it right? She said, as long as you believe what you're teaching them, you're okay. Just believe in what you want them to know and share it with them. You're fine. They're very forgiving. You can totally screw up with the kid and go, wow, guys, that didn't work. And they go, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, and then, like you were saying, going back to just being authentic, like they
know.
They have those detectors, and
Do you like them? They know. Are you bored with them? Are you talking down to them? They know. We've taught the kids here because our corporate culture is we don't hire people who don't like kids. We don't care how smart you are. We're not interested. We are not interested. You can find a ballerina who loves kids, who's exquisite. You just have to look harder. And so every now and then we hire the wrong person. We always go, why didn't we let the kids interview them? Because the kids would come out going, danger, that person doesn't like kids. And we've done it. We did it one time with an actor that we hired to be on stage with them. Because when we do known works like Seussical, or a better example is West Side Story, or Captain Hook was a grown adult. Okay. Major Attaway was Captain Hook. He was awesome. So you have to hire an adult who gets kids. And we did it a few summers ago. We hired someone who was arrogant, didn't like kids, didn't want to mix with them in rehearsal. And you could feel the kids going, they weren't ugly to him. They were respectful. But you could feel him going, that's what you're talking about. That's it. We see what you mean. There are people out there who don't respect us, who think we're just a bunch of kids. And we just say, if we post a job, we're like, if you don't like kids in your face all the time, don't apply. Do not apply. They're mannered. It doesn't mean that they're wild Indians and they don't have manners. We teach them good manners. But if you don't respect a kid, you don't get to work here.
Right.
And people who don't respect kids, I'm not interested in. I can learn things from them, and it doesn't mean that they aren't smart, and that's just their thing. You don't have to love kids for me to learn from you. But you're just missing something. You are. A 4-year-old... The Charles Schultz and Your Good Man Charlie Brown has the best scene, because I played Patty one time. And what is happening is Linus is explaining like the history of the world.
Yeah.
Deep. And Patty listens, and then he pauses for her to talk, and she goes, we had spaghetti 3 times at our house this week. It's like you can be saying really deep things and you think they're with you, and then they say, look, I lost my tooth. You're like, yes. So, anyway, yeah, not everybody likes kids, and that's okay. But for what we do for a living, it's okay. But you don't get to be here.
Right.
Even our accountant, we had an accountant one time who, they were a bit noisy for her. And she did.
And accountants they're special breed.
Special. And you need for them to be black and white. But our current accountant, Zwilma Gonzalez, is also a photographer. So the right brain, she's got left and right going. And when we interviewed her, if she had the red flag, if the red flag had gone up, and we say, oh, we have 4 and 5-year-olds. And sometimes when they get here for class, they'll pop down the hall. If she didn't look like your face looks like right now, which is like, oh, cool. We would have been polite and thanked her for her visit, but we wouldn't hire her. Because any kid who feels they're coming to a place where it's that sense of, oh, kids, that's going to happen later. It's okay.
It gets into the walls that everybody feels it.
It's okay. And at least if they know all you have to have is one zone who believes in you. If you have the zone that says you're awesome, then you can go out there and people go, you're an idiot. You're stupid. That's a terrible idea. And you can be like, okay, I get it. But in your soul, you go, yeah, but I'm okay. That idea's good. Somebody believes in my idea. You don't, but it's okay. Because people go, oh, Deborah, not everybody can be nice. And I'm like, I know. But if you don't teach a child at home or here as a home that you should select people who believe in you on purpose to try to be in the middle of, then you haven't taught them how to navigate to find the place to be. I mean, Nada Ruddick. Hang out with Nada. You know, you look for a place that you can stay for a longer time and build a life because there's someone there who believes in you. Then lots of people could sling arrows. And you go, okay. I mean, I have some serious enemies in my life. Enemies of what I wanted to do that were really mean. You go, you're mean? You just have to develop a sense of moving on. Especially
in the creative fields. You know, acting and producing plays in particular, because, you know, there are a lot of naysayers out there.
Yeah. And I say, and when the kids, because Kids Who Care teaches entrepreneur leadership, and musical theater. It's the combustion. It's not one or the other. It's the combustion. So while we're teaching a kid how to do that thing on stage, we're also saying there's going to be enemies of your vision. Learn to recognize that there will be, and it's okay. Just move on, and giving them tools to deal with it that don't destroy the idea. And what I've learned is people who are naysayers, if I listen really carefully, there's some little piece of truth in it to go, wonder what they saw. Is there anything in there I need to now know to correct what I'm doing? Is it all ugly? Sometimes it is. But if it is all ugly, okay, I've learned to go straight into the monster. You know, it's like, I'll just jump into the mouth of the monster. And, you know, the light destroys the darkness. That's why I watch things like Lord of the Rings. And I'm like, yes. And you watch where I want to watch something that gives, not schmaltzy, but my favorite things are to watch something that was horribly difficult and huge amounts of loss. And one of the things I show in our training is I love and I cry as I show it to the kids. But in Lord of the Rings, when Frodo, when they're trying to get up that last hill, and it's not the leader who can make it, it's the sidekick who picks up the leader and says, you can't get there, but I'm getting you there. And I can't be you, but I can get you there. I said, it's not always the leader who has the strongest. They have the vision, but it doesn't mean they can get to the top. Somebody's got to carry them. And then I cry, and they go, Miss Deborah's crying. And I'm like, it's because it's so good. But that's the kind of art we want to do.
Right. Now, is there another piece of, like a motto that you tend to live by, or a piece of advice that you've received through the years that carry you?
Oh, so many. Yeah, let me think. As a businesswoman, one of the best pieces of advice came from a person I don't know, Sid Richardson, because when we have a show about Texas heroes and about people who make a difference, and we quote him, and although I didn't know him, I just look at the good that his wealth has done, managed well by the foundation. And he said, now this is a man who made kabillions of dollars. Don't get too excited. Which now you've talked to me. It's like, dear God, Deborah, pay attention. Don't get too excited. Don't get in a hurry. Don't lose your sense of humor. Isn't that genius? And I'm still excitable. But like when we didn't get on the Today Show, and I went, oh, and my friend went, it's okay, Deborah, that's not what it's about. It is, but it's not. I still get excited, but I refuse to not be excited about possibilities. But behind the excitement is, I'm so excited. Let's see what it's going to do. Not, it's about to catapult me. And don't get in a hurry. You're a perfect, you're like the story of that. Don't get in a hurry. And don't lose your sense of humor. Aren't those genius things?
That is.
It's so genius. Yeah. Don't get in too big a hurry. And I learned that by surrounding myself with really smart people. My production manager is very pragmatic and a planner. My business manager, very black and white. The development director, also read the lines, read the fine print, Deborah. And so what I do to don't get too excited is I still get to be excited. And I tell my PR director, because she goes, woo, woo, yes, we do it together. But I depend on their balance of, I know you're excited, pause, let me read, and it saves me. I just have to make sure my excitement, that I create a team of people around me that are exceedingly diverse in how they perceive forward motion. And then if I do that, our motion together balances. And then the possibility of doing great things is more possible. But they also need me to step out on the limb. Because I will go to NBC with an idea for a TV show. And I've done it. The dog's name was Shooter. And I had the first script that I wrote. I'd never written a script before television. I had for theater, and it's very different. Very different, but I took a risk. I'll go, somebody will tell us how to do this. Or they'll just say, Deborah, it's a good idea. Somebody needs to write it instead of you. But I was willing to go to NBC. Brian Hawker, I knew him, and I was willing to go to his office with my dog and my kids and go, I've got an idea. And then he said no, and I was okay. He said, well, Deborah, we're moving away from children's programming and we're going straight to news. I'm trying to remember how many years ago that was.
Yeah.
20 years ago, maybe?
Something like that. And I remember that shift, too, because I was still old enough to where it was like...
What happened to the morning children's hour?
Exactly. They all disappeared.
Yeah, and it was a very smart... I mean, it was awesome. You know, a national corporate shift. And here I was, kids who care, you know. I think we were like a $400,000 a year company then. But, you know, if you know somebody, you go ask them, right?
Right.
So if I listen too much, I have to balance how I listen to people go, be careful, you're going to fall off. Don't go on the branch, you're going to fall off the branch. I have to go, okay, I'll hang on to this one, but we're going, here we go, you know. And now as a businessman, a producer, a director, an Emmy award-winning director, that's cool. Then you know that too. Could be a flat no. Yeah, it could be a flat no.
But then it's always about, you know, in life, taking those no's and just pivoting a little bit.
What do you do with it? Yeah. The word pivot is perfect. Pivoting. Martin Reeves, you go listen to this podcast, or it's a TED Talk.
Okay.
With Guy Raz.
I love TED Talks.
I love TED Talks. I found it as a piece of the TED Radio Hour where he has 3 or 4 people. Uh-huh. And then I went straight to the full one. It's Martin Reeves. And he's a scientist first, a biologist, who then talks about the human immune system and how you apply that to running a business.
Wow.
And one of it is being able to pivot. So your body gets a new germ. What do they do with it? How do you survive?
Right.
And so it's the qualities of the human immune system that he applied to business. Isn't that genius? And it's so brilliant. But it's about the qualities that make a business last. Because I'm at 30. I want, when I die, 20, 30 years from now, if I'm really lucky, that it's there, it's going. And the first story I told you about the first summer is still a summer, but it's more sophisticated and it's smarter because people are surrounding me who are smarter than I am, who know now. How do you do that? That's where I am. How do you do the next 30? If I can do the next 30 really well, then what I hope is my grandchildren's children, whether they come to Kids Who Care as an audience member or in a class or the summer, doesn't matter. Did they get to come? Did they still come? Is it still here? So, yeah.
Yeah. Very Awesome. Now, as we start to wrap up, I have a couple questions that I tend to ask people. So, how do you define happiness?
How do I find happiness?
How do you define it?
Define it. I think it's when you're certain that what you're doing throughout your day is affecting some form of good. You know, you let somebody in the lane, good. You invited a friend for lunch, good. You go home, and whether you're home by yourself and your dog greets you, or you go home and just reconnect with the people you love, good. I think happiness comes from a place that is the day was a good day. Everything didn't get done you wanted to get done. The day was a good day. That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
What has acting and theater taught you through the years?
Oh, it helps people make sense of their lives. I think actors and those who produce living works of art, either created the best belly laugh and you're healed and whole, or scared you to death and that was fun. Some people love to be like frightened. That's their joy. Oh, just scare me. That's cool. Or because I am this Winnie the Pooh meets Shakespeare meets Peter, Paul, and Mary. For me, it's become this avenue to try to give people hope. But they didn't know it. They just got entertained. It's not like in your face, I'm giving you hope. It's not at all. It's very, very, very way back here. You go, oh, that was hilarious. Oh, that was funny. Oh. It's my form of art. And what's so hilarious is because I do love graphic arts. I am crazy about our new sign on Montgomery. You have to go out Montgomery if you didn't. I mean, it's this great kid's face. I'm just as interested. And Chad is going to bring a scenic designer. We're doing Seussical again. And I'm just as excited about the scenic design. So every part of what I do for a living is an expression to get somebody in a seat, turn the lights out, help them feel better. Because they laughed or they got scared to death, which is not what I do. I only scare a little. We did Christmas Carol, and when Marley's face comes into the door, it's so great. And we did it beautifully. And so you scared the audience a little bit. Or Wizard of Oz, being really scared of the Wicked Witch. Good scared. So, yeah.
How do you define success?
I think success is finding a group of people you love and building a life together. That's it. For some people, they're working like us, so you find a group of people you love and you build a life together. And same thing with family simultaneously, or friends. Some people, it's their friend base. That's a good life. That's success. The other pieces that the world says, oh, you're exceedingly beautiful and you're very famous and whatever. It's all fleeting. Nobody really cares at the end.
Right.
I mean, when your time's up, did you affect someone's life for good? Check. And for some people, it's a world that's kind of invisible. Their check mark. They affected people that never made the newspaper. No one necessarily knew, but this group of people that were affected. Check.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I know sort of the things that I check off throughout the course of a day to know, if today was a successful
Yeah, did
day.
I do it? Mm-hmm.
Sort of the three things that I look for are, have I learned something?
Yeah.
Have I done something for somebody else? And have I laughed?
Yeah.
And if I do those three things, for me, the day was successful.
The day was successful because the list will ever grow.
Yeah.
But did you get some stuff done? And did you take care of the people around you? If you're getting stuff done and not taking care of people, it's a terrible, unsuccessful day, life, whatever.
And then lastly, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. My younger self would have been, singing on the swing, and pretending to be Haley Mills. And I rewatched Pollyanna for the first time in 30 years last year. And I went, my God, that's it. Because at that child's soul, she had learned to, how do you make the prism make a rainbow on the wall? And how do you make somebody who's exceedingly irritated, how do you find out why they're irritated and say, wow, I'm sorry. That's terrible. I would have said to my younger self, it's going to stay as fun. It's going to be just as fun as it is right now. Yeah.
How can people find out more information about Kids Who Care?
Well, because I have smart people around me, we're constantly going, how do we get the website the most robust and at least grabbing you? So then go to our website at kidswhocare.org, and that's going to channel them to us. And because I'm also in my 60s, calling me is good. If they call 737-5437, I'm extension 6, but anybody they get is going to say, oh my God, please come. So I think because of the electronic world we live in, they can find out so much on the website with some history of what we are and what we believe. But just calling us is so cool. Or, texting us, that's cool too. So any form of just opening the door, then that's really good. Really cool.
And is there anything else you want to tell people about?
I just think, I'd love for people to know it is children coming here. We're not looking for children who say, I want to be on Broadway. That ain't it. Yeah, if your kid's saying, oh my God, I have to go to New York. Yeah, come on. Because we have people here who can give them the skills that they need and connect the dots. But it's not about that. I want people to know you send your child to a theater like Kids Who Care because we've designed a culture to cherish your child first. And then when they get here, they'll find out everybody who works here is about that kid. And the idea is to give the kid the courage to become who they're born to be. A geologist, good. It's what we do here is to develop the creative mind and the entrepreneur spirit. Because if you've got ideas, you have to know how to get them on their feet. And I think the biggest misnomer is, oh my God, my child will get weird if they go to a theater. No, maybe some theaters that are a bunch of weirdos who don't really care about your kid, but not a place that cares about your kid. And so I think still at 30 years, I'm just saying, guys, it's not about your kid is already a dancer. If they are, awesome. But give us your kid who's going to be a biologist. We'll make their brain work in a way that creates the next cure. Because it won't be yesterday's idea, it will be tomorrow's. That's the biggest thing is it's not just theater, but it is. My friend said, and I wouldn't say this to my children's audience, but, we're kick-ass theater. Yeah, don't underestimate it because it has the kid word in it. Do not underestimate what's going to happen. This is kick-ass theater, not just for kids.
Great way to stand up.
Yeah, it is. That's really great. That'll be the headline. Deborah Jung says kick-ass. I thought she was G-rated. People apologize to me when they use bad language. I'm like, guys, I'm in my 60s. It's okay. I'm fine. So.
Well, Deborah, thank you so much for sitting down.
Thank you. I made a new friend. I love it.
That's the podcast. Thank you again to Deborah Jung for sitting down with me.
Again, you can learn so much more about Kids Who Care by visiting their website, kidswhocare.org. Keep up with the Avert Your Eyes podcast or check out past episodes by visiting our website, avertyoureyespod.com. There you'll find everything you need to subscribe to the podcast with links to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and so much more. Go to www.avertyoureyespod.com. And don't forget to leave a comment or review. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Michael Gibson Jr., And until next time on the Avert podcast, consider yourself warned.